The war in the Middle East has always been a priority for the US. The way we can look at it under a Trump administration is that it is going to follow the similar way and the similar overarching strategy of the previous administration in the sense that the United States does not want to be involved in the regional war. It does certainly not want to have a presence on the ground. President Trump has per, repeatedly said throughout his campaign that if he had been in office, the war would have not happened in the region. He has repeatedly said that there are a lot of wars happening globally that he would like to end as soon as possible. So yes, the war in the Middle East is a priority for the United States. However, perhaps to reframe this, we should say that ending the war as soon as possible is a priority and will certainly shape President Trump's policies towards the region. Well, if we are going to be looking at how President Trump's policies will shape the future of the Middle East, a good starting point is to look at how it has done so in his previous administration. And to start, looking back at it, it has changed it in a massive way. Under President Trump's last administration, we have seen President Trump retract and abandon the JCPOA, which his predecessor has put in place. He wanted to cut all financial flows to Iran and impose even greater sanction on the IRGC, which he perceived as increasing the proxies' activities across the region, including the Houthis in Yemen, Hezbollah in Lebanon, but also support to the Assad regime in Syria. Also, in his previous administration, we saw a lot of military wins, including, for example, the killing of the IRGC military leader Qasem Soleimani. In parallel, we saw him shape the Middle East by providing a lot of wins, tactical and strategical wins for Israel, most notably by moving the embassy of the United States to Israel from Tel Aviv to Jerusalem, but also in providing access to the Golan Heights. Uh, Also, a third way in which we have seen him reshape the Middle East is through the Abraham Accords. Of course, the diplomatic deal between Israel, the historic diplomatic deal between Israel and Arab and Muslim countries across the Middle East and North Africa. So, moving forward, what does that mean looking back at his administration for his next administration? President Trump will certainly have a big impact on the region in terms of reshaping its geopolitical standing. Um, the question remains how. The situation in the Middle East today is certainly very different than what it was like 4 years ago. There's a regional war that is looming, but also a lot of parallel crises. And the reality is that President Trump sees this as a nuisance to American interests, as it is exacerbating American resources. So he will be definitely moving for a regional peace soon. The question is, what are the concessions to be made? What are the calculations behind the strategy? And who are the parties that are going to accept a negotiation deal? And what will the deal look like? When we are looking at the US policy towards Lebanon, it is important to keep in mind that it is going to be part of the US policy towards the region as a whole. That means including Iran, that means including Israel, that means including Syria and other countries that are currently participating in the war. Um, Media has shown that throughout the last couple of hours, within the announcement of his win, President Bibi, Israeli President Bibi Netanyahu, was one of the first national leaders who had congratulated Trump. And Trump has said that Israel, he will be providing unwavering support to Israel throughout his administration and his presidency. He has also said that he will aim to bring peace to the Middle East as soon as possible and bringing a ceasefire to Lebanon to end the war as fast as possible. The way we will be looking at it is that under his presidency, pressure that will be placed on Hezbollah will certainly increase, and the bargaining position of Israel towards Lebanon and what the ceasefire deal could look like is certainly stronger now. Uh, Bringing peace to Lebanon will certainly have multiple factors, including looking at the previous resolutions that are in place already, seeing what could be taken out of these resolutions to implement peace, but also looking at ways that would achieve that in a way that pleases Israel, of course, but pleases the Lebanese government, of course, as well. Well, throughout his campaign, Trump has said, as I mentioned earlier, that he aims to bring peace to Lebanon as soon as possible. And that includes bringing a ceasefire to the table, and that includes electing a president. The answer really goes back to whether the parties in Lebanon are willing to move forward with that. As I mentioned earlier, Hezbollah today is in a very weakened position, yet the parties still insist on fighting. At the same time, if we are going to bring ceasefire to Lebanon, we need to discuss Israel's action and activities in southern Lebanon, and which means that Israel would have to retract from southern Lebanon. So certainly, looking at whether President Trump will help bringing a president-elect also will depend on the local domestic factors in Lebanon. As a Lebanese, we want to proceed with this in a democratic way. We want to have a president that is going to please all parties in Lebanon. And we want to also have a president that will be able to protect national sovereignty and really represent Lebanese internationally. Looking at how domestically the situation is, that means that there are going to be concessions by Hezbollah, but as well as other parties as well. Where does Trump's role come with that is as a negotiator. We must insist on pursuing a diplomatic route rather than a strongman route. And also, we must make sure that it is not a transactional activity. We certainly want to bring peace as soon as possible. However, if the fastest way will compromise national interests for Lebanon, this will certainly not be the best route forward. Looking at 1701 and 1559, we must acknowledge that Israel has said that the way they stand so far will not be enough. However, we must reinstate our trust in international institutions and in international agreements. The way Trump and frankly the international community is looking at it is yes, to put trust in 1701 and 1559, but ensuring that there is an enforcing mechanism. Throughout the last roughly 20 years, we have seen repeated violations of 1559 and 1701, both from the Israeli front and the Lebanese front. These international texts claim and reassert the need for all parties in Lebanon to disarm and to have the LAF really protect the borders of Lebanon with the help, of course, of UNIFIL. But they also require Israel to respect international borders. That said, we are looking at a different playbook today, 1779, for it to be enforced. Some international players are saying that we are looking at a 1779 plus or even a 1779 plus plus, which will include, as I mentioned, an enforcing mechanism. What will this enforcing mechanism look like? This is the main question that we should be asking ourselves here. And I reiterate that Trump's policy as an isolationist leader really focuses on removing the United States presence from the Middle East totally. He has repeatedly said that one of the United States' biggest mistake was to go to the Middle East in the first place. So we know that he does not have desire nor interest in having US troops on the ground. And so the question remains, what is this enforcement mechanism and how will we go forward with 1779? Countries all over the world always proceed with caution when there is a US election. And especially this caution is increased when the situation domestically in the United States is very polarized, as we saw in this current election. But also, countries in the region are proceeding more with caution since the region is going through one of the biggest wars that it has seen at a time, again, where the American public is very polarized about the election. That said, as the Atlantic Council, we are a nonpartisan institution that has existed for over 60 years. For over 60 years, we have seen times and times again administrations change, ambassadors to the regions change. However, our working relationship with the region has remained the same. This is exactly because we focus on building long-term, long-lasting partnerships that really focus on unlocking human capital, no matter what the situation within the region looks like. So focusing on building partnerships is something very important. We look at establishing partnerships that help shape the region's policies in a way that advances human rights, in a way that advances cooperation, in a way that advances economic and technological innovation. And this will, of course, happen through partnerships, through diplomacy, and through initiatives like the Women Innovators Fellowship that really focuses on public diplomacy and providing results that impact the people of the region. And in terms of how will this US election impact our work, particularly at the council in terms of establishing these partnerships, we must this is a twofold answer, really. On one hand, administrations have changed repeatedly throughout the last few years, and we have not seen really a substantial change with the ways we have established partnerships in the region. And we anticipate that it won't really change. However, on the other hand, it's also important to keep in mind that President Trump has campaigned under an America First ethos. And this, if we look at the domestic issues that are currently arising in the United States, we are seeing a $36 trillion in national debt. We are seeing over $1.5 trillion in national deficit. And so we must also anticipate that President Trump will also have his priorities focused on fixing and attending to these issues as much as possible. Whether these priorities will affect his foreign policy priorities when it comes to establishing partnerships, this remains to be seen. However, here at the Atlantic Council, we remain committed as a nonpartisan institution to still unlocking the region's human capital. And at the WIN Fellowship, we are big believers that we could do so through the power of women, through the power of entrepreneurship, but also through policymaking that really fosters economic environments that are conducive to entrepreneurship change. The region is currently going through parallel crises at the same time. Yet, multiple studies have revealed how when women are more integrated in economic participation, especially in post-conflict, in countries with post-conflict situations, this will lead to a more sustainable and long-lasting peace. Studies have also shown that when women have the rights, legal rights to obtain their businesses and start their businesses, that this will have ripple effects not only on their personal businesses, but on the economy and the society as well. And that is because they will invest in education and healthcare, and also look at employ more women into the economic sector. Women have also shown to be more loyal customers. Uh, and there are a lot of studies that have revealed the amount of gains and wins that women's increased participation in the region will bring to the economy. In fact, a report by McKinsey has shown that if we increase women's economic participation from now until 2025 and close the gender gap, that there is a likelihood of increasing the regional GDP by 47%. This will bring a lot more jobs to the region. And as I mentioned earlier, data has showed that by increasing economic opportunities, this will have long lasting effect on the regional security. Understandably, when the United States is going through a period of election, there are a lot of complexities that arise, and are also a lot of questions that are understandably, when the United States is going through an election, there are a lot of complexities that arise in terms of what will its foreign policy towards the region look like. To establish trust, we must ensure that the public diplomacy, the core of public diplomacy, is present, no matter what the administration is, but also no matter what the situation in the region is. At the heart of it, we focus on initiatives that really create long lasting impact. We focused on initiatives that help impact the future of the society as a whole. And to build trust, we really have to maintain our credibility in delivering these results. When these complexities arise, other questions arise from the region as well, including whether the region should engage with the United States. Uh, and this is where the debate really starts happening. But the answer is that this disengagement from the United States for reasons that stem from its foreign policy towards the region is not only not feasible, but it's also not helpful and not productive for the region. At the end of the day, we are in Washington, D.C. We are an institution that has existed for 60 years. And being at Washington, D.C. for that longer period has really built our credibility in terms of being at the heart of decision making. So, on one hand, this is a way to establish trust. On the other hand, by focusing on public initiatives that really impact the lives of women, of the future generation, and of all society, all members of society of the region, we are trying as an institution, as the Rafik Hariri Institution, to really help amplify other voices in the region. I will tell you by working on projects that support women entrepreneurship in the region, we have worked so far with over 150 women entrepreneurs. And I perhaps will tell you that me as an Arab myself, working here in Washington, D.C., this fills me with so much pride because it helps project another voice of the region to Washington, D.C., which we are trying to focus on. This voice would be very important in shaping the policies of the United States toward the region in the future. That is not to say that we are going to neglect and we are neglecting the war that is happening right now and its huge impact on the lives of people around the world in the region specifically, but also of women. But that is to say that there are some non-conventional solutions to ending wars that do not include military solutions. And this focuses on fostering economic partnerships, increasing women's standing in policymaking, but particularly in increasing women's participation in the economy.